sharing of this knowledge of our great rishis on this subject, what we call as acoustics or Shabda Vijnana or Naga Vijnana. सुखासनस्थं हृदयाब्जपीठे मुद्रयालङ्कृतपाणिपद्मं शुभोपवीतं विमलोर्ध्वपुण्ड्रं नमामि रङ्गं गुरुमन्तरङ्गे. I am very happy to be here at this great institution. The name itself is very inspiring. Indian Institute of World Culture. Because India never looked for itself. It always looked out and looked to the world. Mano Bhadra Kratavo Yantu Vishwataha. And it is that spirit which has inspired so many great researchers, scientists, and both ancient and modern rishis. So this particular topic on Vedic perspectives and acoustics, I will dedicate this, both the knowledge and whatever humble presentation that I am going to share, to my spiritual guru, a great yogi, seer, Sri Ranga Sadguru. Because this field of acoustics, as we know in modern times, is the science that deals with propagation of sound, production of sound, propagation of sound, and the reception of sound. That's what we call acoustics. As we will see, it's a very important area in modern times. But when we start looking into our Vedic literature, or the Sanatana Dharma Sahitya, as we call, it is mind-boggling. It's simply an experience that cannot be expressed in words. That so much has been done by our great sages in this area. And so that is the basic view of this presentation. And so to begin with, the word acoustics, as I said earlier, is a word from Greek origin, acoustic, which is the production, propagation, and reception of sound. Now, sound itself is vibrations in the air, which become the audio. Then, when it becomes the vibrations in the medium, of course, then we use the word acoustic also. So that is why we use the word acoustic emission. And if it is audio range, we call audio frequencies, which is below 20 hertz, we call it as infrasonics, and above 20,000 hertz, we call it ultrasonics and beyond. So, but normally when we use acoustics, noise, sound, we kind of look into only the audio range of the human reception, so which is 20 to 20,000 hertz in the ideal case. So, but here we see the general term as vibration, it is ubiquitous, because when you look at the engineering science, we see that so we can see the area of acoustics is kind of all around. So we're looking into the engineering, we have the mechanical vibrations and transportation, all types of transportation carry the vibrations and noise and the acoustics field here. When you come into the human and social science, we have the music, the building acoustics, and all of that is speech, and everything is coming here. When you come to the life and health sciences, we have the medical uses of acoustical waves, and physiology, psychology, bioacoustics, and all of that here. Then we go into the terrestrial, the earth sciences, we see again the whole area of acoustics is here. So that is why this whole thing is showing that sound is everywhere in one form or another, whether it is air or a material medium. It's the waves that goes through carrying the energy. Now, one of the inspirations that I had was when I was looking at our Devata Murtis. We see that all our Devata Murtis carry some kind of instrument. And so that tells us something. Because if we see, for example, Goddess Saraswati's Murti having a veena, what it is telling us that she is playing the veena where it is captured at the moment of vision. Because nobody takes a picture with veena simply with them. Only when they are playing, a picture is taken. So the Murti is a dynamic representation of that activity of the music that's going on. That's what it is telling us. So, and same thing, the Krishna holding the Shankha. So, it is a dynamic representation. So, that is why the Murti Puja is a source of energy to which a devotee synchronizes, resonates with. And when the resonance occurs between the source, that is the Devata Murti, and the receiver as the Bhakta or Bhakte, then there is an energy transfer that's coming from the source to the receiver, and of course that is why this Ananda, as we are talking about, that happens through the spandas or the resonance. So when we see all of these murtis, basically it is an experience, it's an anubhava. So that's a very important one, because this is telling us that when the rishis had this yoga darshana, antar darshana, that's actually experiencing that. And that is then showing us the importance of this whole Nada Prapancha and Shabda Prapancha. And one of the verses in Amrita Bindu Upanishad says, Dve Brahmani Veditavye Shabda Brahmam Paranchayat Shabda Brahmani Nishnataha Param Brahmadi Gacchati. So when we talk of the Brahmans, so we are referring to not just one Brahman that normally people are used to. Really there are two aspects, and one is referred as Parabrahman and the other Shabda Brahman. And they are interdependent and basically the expression of each other. So that is why the verse is telling us, the Upanishad Vakya is telling that one has to go through the Shabda Brahman. And so once when we cross the Shabda Brahman or go through the Shabda Brahman, then Anubhavaika Vedya, as we say, then the experience which cannot be expressed. It is beyond Varnana. But Varnana is a pathway. And this going from expressive to beyond expression is really the Shabda and the Parabrahma. So this is a very interesting thing for us, because when we see the universe as the expression, as the Shabda Sharira, as we say, and in that there is a Jyotirmaya Atma. So Jyotirmaya Atma to Shabdamaya Sharira. And that's where the Sharira Shariri Sambandha can be, or the body soul relationship also can be expressed in this. So this is a very important thing in this whole way of looking at the Vedic perspectives of the what we call as the sound. But again, the Shabda and the Naga cannot be and should not be translated as sound itself. As I said earlier, sound refers to a limited expression or limited experience of the human audio range. That's what we call sound. But when you call Shabda and Naga, it does not mean sound. It means much beyond and much more than that. It is something like saying, if I see through the window, I see the traffic moving. But whatever I see through the window is a partial view. That means there is something happening before my vision starts in the window, and there is something happening after. In a similar way, when I am experiencing through the ear the sound or acoustic waves, it is a partial view. But nevertheless, it is integrated with the experience. That is why the Sangeeta that we hear from the right Manodharma can take us to that experience of higher level. So there is a connectivity. So we should not translate Shabda and Naga as sound. Now, where is the literature for all of these topics? And it is all embedded in the Vedic literature. And this Vedic literature itself is like a Urdhvamula Madashakam. And if we look at the inverted tree, and here is our source, which is the Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma, and that the source being, then we have the Vedas. Now the Vedas, and we know that it is the mantra Rashi, the collection of large number of mantras, so much. And these mantras are expressed through the audio field. But nevertheless, it is at the etymology of mantra itself, mananat, rananat, chaiva. So that has come through the deepest level of absorption that the rishis have received. They have received what we call as the heard. Heard and received mean the same here. That is why we call it Shruti. And from that, the mantra drashtara, the rishi is taken and then properly transmitted to the next generation or the next row. So like that, this oral tradition or Maukhika Sampradaya has transferred, and this, in this whole thing, acoustics has a very, very important role, as we will see. And once we come from there to the various Upavedas, we have the Gandharva Veda, which has so much of literature on the, for example, the Sangeeta. The Sangeeta Shastra is referred basically here. Then as we come into the Vedangas, then we have the Shiksha, which is the phonetics. We know that there are so many Shiksha that talk about the role of sound. And then we have, of course, the Vyakarana also deals with in a very different way, but nevertheless it has a lot of importance there. Then the etymology, then the Chandas has so much importance, as you'll see. because the various chandas when we experience it as a poem, as a meter, then we see the gati of that itself brings the effect of the sound. So, and of course in the philosophical darshanas also, we have so much of importance for the field of acoustics. And so all of this tells us that this whole knowledge of acoustics is kind of embedded in this whole thing, because it is right at the source here. And once we see it here, then we can see through in all of these branches here. So that is why it is kind of all-pervading as we see. And as we saw in our previous ubiquity of acoustic slide, we saw that. And of course, we also know the significance and importance of the pranava or om, which again is referred as the Shabda Brahman. So we see that there is a spiritual dimension, there is a various fields of learning. All of that is simply embedded with this field of acoustics. And we all know that, of course, for this audience, it is nothing new here. When we have the mantras, when we go from the Guru to Shishya, then again Guru to Shishya, these mantras are carried over very, very precisely, because the swaras are so important in the mantrocharana. It has to be only through the oral tradition. Any other way will not really bring it. Even through tape recording. Recently one scientist was asking in one of the meetings that suppose if we are able to produce exactly the swaras and all those, can we replace the guru and put an electronic system as a teacher? And the answer is no, because there is the life force. The life force is very important in the production of sound. One simple experiment I can suggest, we can try ourselves. We can record any simple verse ourselves, even as simple shloka as Shuklam Varadaram Vishnu. And we record it once in tape recorder. Then when we try to say it ourselves again, coinciding with that, it's not easy. Because when we record once, our exhaling pattern is different. And when I try to re-record it again, my exhaling pattern will be different of exhalation of my breath. So I will not be able to produce precisely the same way. So that is the dynamics of this acoustic. So that is why it is a thing that has to be carried from a life force to another life force. That is how it goes through. So here we know that in the various forms, when we take up for example, the Samhita Pata, the Anudatta, Anudatta, Swarita, we have the Swarita representation here and the Anudatta representation, and how it is maintained over the generation. So to give a simple example, we have Namah Shivaya Cha. So when we take the Samhita part and break it, Namah Shivaya Cha. So you can see the variation of the swara when we go from Samhita to Patapata. And this has to be maintained. So that means the knowledge of the intonation and the sound aspect is very important here. And when we come like that, Namah Shivaya Shivaya Cha. And then when we come to the Jata, Namah Shivaya Shivaya Namo, Namah Shivaya Shivaya Chata Shivaya Shivaya Cha. So we can see how we carry that. And of course the Ghanapata 1 2 2 1 1 2 3 3 2 1 1 2 3, that way coming through. And so beautifully it comes. Namah Shivaya Shivaya Namo, Namah Shivaya Chata Shivaya Namo, Namah Shivaya Cha. Shivaya Chata Shivaya Shivaya Cha. So when we go through this and when we sit and listen with complete absorption and concentration to this Vedic, it's amazing how this acoustic energy that's coming, which is carrying that Virat Purusha, as we say, Yasya Nishvasitam Vedaha, Yo Vedebhyo Akilam Jagat, that seems to be so real, because that pattern is coming to us and we are kind of carried with it. And I had the fortune of going through Vedic chanting with several Vedic masters, Sri Srinivasa Murthy, Sri R.K. Srikanta Kumar Swami in IIT Madras, Srinivasa Murthy in Bangalore, and then again Veda Brahma, Puttanasima Shastri of Magadi Karnika Pathshala, who brought to me that way, that continuous transfer of the Veda mantra. And one who has learned through the chanting can never miss the impact of acoustics. And even listening, in fact, it has been shown, some of the traditional Vedic Pandits have told me that when chanting is happening, they can actually make people just stand still. And in Veda mantras itself, for example, in Surya Namaskara mantras, it comes Apakramada Garbhinyaha. So that means any pregnant woman who is here should leave now. Then the mantras are recited in a different pattern, in a lower amplitude. And then once we come back, then Yathasthanam Garbhinyaha. Then so this is directly due to the sound energy, which comes through from the higher level to the wave pattern that goes through as acoustic waves. So that is that connectivity that we see. And in 2003, UNESCO recognized, of course we know the significance of Vedic chanting, but world at large, UNESCO made it published recognition that it is a monumental heritage, in world's intangible heritage about the Vedic chanting, because to ensure that the sound of each word remains unaltered, practitioners are taught from childhood complex recitation techniques that are based on tonal accents, a unique manner of pronouncing each letter and specific speech combination. So very nicely said. And in fact, the government of India prepared a very nice DVD of all the 4 Vedas and their chanting practices throughout India. It's a very beautiful DVD. There we see how different patterns are practiced and how important the Vedic chanting and acoustic accuracy. Then Sir C.V. Raman was one of the great admirer and devotee of field of acoustics, and he did some monumental work before he went into optics, and again came back to acoustics at a very, very later time. And he said it would form a fascinating chapter of history to try and trace the gradual development of musical instruments and musical knowledge from the rhythmic chanting of the Rig Veda in the ancient home of the Aryan race to the Indian music of the present day. So what it refers is basically is a continuous knowledge transfer that is happening from the Vedic chanting to the present day Indian music. That means there is that continuity. And this is what I was referring earlier, that the findings of our rishis is so beautiful, that they are able to connect and show to us by experience that whole connectivity. And Sir C.V. Raman has done, which I'll come to some slides later. Now, the Shabda Brahman, as we referred in our earlier slide, has been a little more clearly given to us in a definition form. Chaitanyam sarvabhutanam shabda brahmeti mematihi. So it's a very, very clear, concise definition. Because, as I said earlier, the sound is defined as vibrations in the air. That's all it defines. It's a modern definition. But when we go back to Shabda, the definition is very different. Because now Shabda is referred to the Chaitanya, which means, to put it in English word, it's a self-propelling free will motion. That means that free will motion that wants to move, that entity, that Chaitanya. So the Shabda is brought to that level. Not at the end, where is the vibrations in the air. That is at the downstream. But now we are talking of upstream here. So right at the upstream, we are saying that is where the Shabda, Chaitanya. The Chaitanya itself is the Shabda Shakti that is there. A closer modern definition for that is given by William Bragg, who is a physicist from England. He says something very interesting. He says, anything that moves produces sound. Very nice thing. Because if I move my hand like this, have I produced sound? The answer is yes. Because because sometimes sound is defined at the receiver level. But the sound is produced by the movement itself. Because when we start defining, it is not high frequency enough, it is not repeating, and all these things, then we say it is not audible. But nevertheless, sound has been produced because the air is compressed. When air is compressed, it produces an increase in the pressure, and that again releases, then again that again compresses. Like that it goes on. So right at the source level itself, the Shabda is defined. Very beautiful insight here we get from this. Then again we coming to the Sangeeta Ratnakara, which is a little more recent, and it says, Chaitanyam Sarvabhutanam Vivutam Jagadatmana Nada Brahma Tadanandam Advitiyam Upasmahe. So the Sarvabhutanam Chaitanya, this Chaitanya, which is the conscious, as I said, the conscious self-propelling energy, is basically which has become the world itself. So it has become the visible world, expressive world, experienceable world, and so that is where the source and expression of that. So the upstream and downstream you can see here, and that is expressed as Nada Brahma. So that is why when we bring these rasas and bhavas, we come into this whole Sangeeta Shastra. So in one end we have the Veda mantras, which are basically the mantras which are experiential utterances that has come from a very deep level of experience in the form of sound. Then we have the Sangeeta, which again from the high level of experience, but bringing various bhavas. And the rasas, the various navarasas are coming through, and we get that experience of that ananda. And that is second to none. So we can see this whole experience that we are talking about is completely captured in Shabda Brahma and Nada Brahma. And to me, that's simply phenomenal. And so now, how is that our rishis were able to do this? When we put that question, because they experience the whole process of the sound from its origin to the complete manifestation. It is something like an agriculturalist who sees the seed to the fruit. So when an agriculturalist sees that seed to fruit, that gives the complete knowledge of that process. In a similar way, here also, from the Rig Veda, we know this famous mantra, Chatvari Vak Paramita Padani Tani Vidut Brahmana Ye Manishinaha Guhatrini Nihita Nengayanti Turiyam Vacho Manushya Vadanti. Very, very important. Nothing like this we see in the modern expression or explanation of sound yet. Some elements have come through, but the way the whole process is seen. And so the four stages as we see here, when we go from known to unknown. So the known is the sound that I am producing as a speech, which is coming through as sound waves here. So when we go from known to unknown, that means what is that's coming out here is when I go behind it, there is that mediation, madhyama. So it has to come through that mediation, medium, to come to this Vaikari or the expressive or manifested. Then the question is that the origin? So the deeper introspection has shown that no, that is not the origin. Madhyama is the medium, there is one behind it. And when we go through that, then we see the Pashyanti stage. If that the source, then again behind that, the Para, the source of all, the source of everything, source all pervading. So this whole process, as we see, whatever is expressed here is coming from an all-pervading source. And that's, I think, that's really very, very, very beautiful. Beautiful, because nothing is seen in fragment now. Nothing is seen in fragment. Everything is seen in totality for one who can see, of course. Because the process is there. It is for the individual to go through the path of sadhana, which we call the yoga marga, to see that. But that is why the antardarshana, the rishis, emphasize so much to bring this cosmic view, cosmic vision. And that this Parapashyanti Madhyama Vaikari model really is so beautiful. And we can go a little more into that to see. Now when we take that model and we can see that in a similar way in many other aspects, we can take some example. For example, if we see the Vaikari aspect in a flower, for example, we see the fully blossomed flower in the Vaikari stage. Then behind it we see the Madhyama, behind it we see the Pashyanti, and behind it we see Para. So whatever field we take, we can kind of go through this approach, going from known to unknown, known to unknown, known to unknown. Because once the unknown becomes known, then again we have to go for the causal chain, as we call. So we can see that, for example here, sentences if we take at the Vaikari stage, then we see the Madhyama, then the Pashyanti, then the Para. If we take the Shakti as the thing, then we can see the Kriya Shakti, the Gnana Shakti, Ichha Shakti, then behind it is Para Shakti. So we see this Para Pashyanti Madhyama Vaikari is something that can be seen everywhere. And once I was thinking why this field of acoustics our sages have given so much importance, is there is another interesting reason. Because if you take the sense of hearing and say the production of sound is right here, the transmission of sound is right between mouth to the ear, and the receiver of the sound is right here. So both the source, the receiver and the path are all built in right into this human system. And that's a beautiful laboratory to go with. Because any other thing I have to see outside. If I want to understand I have to see something outside. Then I have to go inside. But whereas here, everything is happening. The source, path, receiver, everything is right built in here. So Probably that's one of the reasons that I could think of. Our spiritual master, Yogi Sriranga Sadguru, has beautifully said it in this whole thing as, just as from a seed comes naturally sprout, branch, leaf, flower, unripe fruit, and full fruit, likewise starting from the spiritual light, Jyoti, as seed, the Nada, Swara, and Aksharas have developed into the various aspects of knowledge. Very beautiful statement. I put it in English, but the original is in Kannada. It's a very, very profound thing, because this is what the goal of life is, to see the whole thing, an attempt to sadhana to see that. And so this, I have put it in a picture form, these four stages, and Vaikhari, we see here, there are 4 dimensions of Vaikhari, or 4 domains, and if we see the speech, language, perception, and drama, all of these is one. Then we have the Sahitya, the literature, figures of speech and meter, Alankara and the Chandas, and all of these we can see in another domain. Then we have the Adhyatma domain, the mantra, japa, and even bhajans. I include in this because bhajans carry a very, very powerful method for spiritual development. And of course, the Sangeeta is another big field where we have both the Gita, Vadya, and Nritya. All of the 3 are brought in here. So we can see the Vaikhari is simply all-pervading, that itself. So that is why, we get so much engrossed in this, and very rarely we start thinking to go deeper, to go inward, to go inside. And once we start making this journey inward from any of these fields, that is what probably is referred. Because through Sangeeta one can reach, through Nritya one can reach, through the Darshana one can reach. So we can see that the path are many to come to inside here. Because the para is the state where one has to go into. So we can see the Madhyama, Pashyanti, para. So this, the Nivrutti Marga, as we call, is inward. And this, the field of Shabda and Nada, is the one that shows the way. So here, another definition of the word Nada, and it is referred as Nakaram Prananamanam, Dakaram Analam Vidu, Jata Pranagni Sanyoga, Thena Nado Vidiyate. So this Nada as a Shakti is referred as a communion of the Prana and Anala. So Prana Shakti, of which an expression is the breathing, inhaling and exhaling, is an expression of the Prana Shakti, which is the force in controlling that. And that, at that Prana Shakti and Anala, that is the fire or the heat element, when they both are brought together, and that becomes the Shakti, which again goes upward within and then comes out as the Vaikhari Nada. And there is a nice analogy to our modern acoustic wave equation derivation, for those who are familiar with that. When we derive the acoustic wave equation, we use 3 concepts: the momentum equation, the conservation of mass, and entropy, thermodynamic equation. So the momentum equation is something like Prana Shakti. It's an analogy, not one-to-one correlate, analogy. And thermodynamics, of course, is the heat aspect. So we have to bring in all those 3 to derive the wave equation. So here we see our Rishi Darshana has that analogy, because the research, when we want to define research, it is open. It is not that one has to go through this mathematical way or this way. People go by intuition, people go by introspection, people go by inward meditation. So many ways are there. So the idea is to come to the jnana that is referred. And so it's a very nice way to see Naga as the communion of the Pranashakti and Anala. Then when it comes to the Vaikhari stage, again another observation is made. The Naga that has come as the source energy has expressed itself into all aspects here. Nanadena vina geetam, nanadena vina swaraha, nanadena vina nrutyam, tasman nadatmakam jagat. Again from Sangeeta Ratnakara. So this terms nadatmakam jagat, nadadhina mato jagat is so beautiful. And that is a revelation. It's a thing that so profound that has come from our rishis. Now here from the Gana Rahasya Prakashini, the very nice process is given that what happens when one wants to speak, one wants to express in the speech form. So it says Atma, that is the individual, wills want to speak, because that is why the Ichha Shakti is so important. Because if someone doesn't have desire to speak, it is not easy to make that person speak. Although the person is capable of speaking very much, because that Ichha Shakti, that want to, that will. So that once that is there, once that initiates, the individual tells the mind. So now the mind becomes the executive agent. Now the mind starts working, and then it brings the two components, that the one he, that is the fire, one he is fire, and Marutam, that is the Pranashakti element, the Agni and Prana that we referred earlier. So the individual activates the mind, and mind activates or inspires those two, and then those two come through, then it comes Brahma Granthi, Pramadurthvapate Charan, comes through, and then Nabi Hrutkanta Murdhasya Avirbhavati Satvanihi. Very, very beautiful, the whole process. Now, no matter who is speaking, no matter what a person is speaking, the process is explained here. That's the beauty. Now, why should we know about the process? People are able to speak. Why? Why to know? Now, the answer for that is when we know the process, then we get the control of the process. Control means in a positive way. Because then it can be harmonized, synergized. The whole thing is different now. Because that whole knowledge becomes, doing with knowledge is totally different. Yadeva vidya karoti sat vidyavadharam bhavati. So that whole thing becomes different. In fact, Tyagaraja, I'm sure we remember one of the Shrutis, he has Nabi Hrutkanta. Same thing has referred. Now here, I have put together again the process in a little more detailed way, because when the speech has to come here, it needs two aspects to come. One is the biological and other is the psychological, psycho-spiritual I should say. So the psycho-spiritual has to come, then the biological or the yogic, biology I mean in terms of the yogic. So both have to come together here to become what is known as the speech. Why? It's very important to see that, because we saw in the previous slide, of course, the prana and anala coming together, and then it comes Nadi Utkanta. So we have that Paramang Mula Chakrastha. In the Muladhara we have this Para, and then it comes up Pashyanti, Nadi Samstita here, and then we come to Hridga to Madhyama and Vaikhari Kanta Deshaga. So this comes through the biological, that is through the our human system. But that's not enough. Because if the energy comes here, but what about the knowledge behind it? The choice of words, the level of experience, what the word represents, all that jnana, that thing has to be again brought in, and that we can see coming from the top. And when we see here, Vaikhari Shabda Nishpattihi. So Vaikhari is here, then when you go behind Madhyama Shruti Gochara. So now we have to go behind, because when I come through the Vaikhari Shabda, so it has to be here in the Shruti. That means it should be in my memory, it should be in my Anubhava Samagri, it should be there. Otherwise I cannot bring it. So then behind it, one has to see Jyotidarthasya Pashyanti. So behind it, that seeing has to be there. And behind that is Sukshma Brahmaiva Kevalam. So the idea here is that one from the Anubhava, that is why that Anubhava starts, and then that is why we say Madhyama, Pashyanti, and the Para is the Yogi Gamya. If you see the Rigveda Vakya, that is what it said. The Vaikhari is for everybody. Everybody uses Vaikhari. But to see the process behind it, one has to do the Yoga Sadhana. Otherwise one cannot see it. It is not observable by a crude observation. One has to go through the process of observation, and that is the sadhana. So the idea here is, for it to come properly here, the thing has to come from there and from the bio and the yoga, and then comes and merges here. That is why when we hear the words of the Jnanis and Anubhavis, it is different. It's totally different. Because that word is different than the word which is said by someone else without that experience. It is two different things. So that's what this Shabda Nada field can bring to us. And the interesting thing is, this is, as the Sriranga Guru used to say, it is everybody's birthright to know these things. Every human being has the birthright to unravel this process, to go into this process. Of course, it needs sadhana, it needs all other things, but the potential is there, the capability is built in, and the right is also there as a human being. Now, I put a little bit of Sanskrit here, although all languages are important and very good. Sanskrit has some special features that I'm sure all of us can see, that acoustic features. And when we see that sound assigned to alphabet do not change, this is something interesting in Sanskrit. And because when we say ka remains ka, both the sound as and the alphabet in every place that we use. If I do anything else, the sound changes. So the sound and shape assigned. Then the desired words usually have some acoustic similarity with the root. This is also very interesting. When we take For example, the word, the root vid, we can make so many words with that vid. Vidyalaya, Vidya, Vidvat, Vidvamsa, Vidushi. That same acoustic pattern keeps coming again and again and again. But not all languages have it. Of course, English is not a good example. If I say to know, I go with knowledge, knower. But where did the university, scholar, learned, they all are different in terms of the acoustical similarity and everything. Then large number of alphabets, hence large number of basic sounds. Now this is an interesting phenomenon also, because when you take 16 vowels roughly and about 30 or so consonants, when we combine both, we get about almost 400 or so basic sounds. And these basic sounds is the basic vocabulary of acoustic sounds. For example, if I say bhav, the bhav is a basic sound which is directly coming from that bhav. If I have to put it in some other language, for example, English again, to take BHOW or BHOU, I have to make it. It's not a basic sound as bhav. Now this is a very important one, because when we speak, if we use Sanskrit to speak or recite and all of that, the use of the body, the use of the vocal operators is so much that we get a very, very different experience compared to other languages. So Sanskrit in particular has this beautiful phenomena. Then we have the soft aspirant, hard aspirant and nasal. This is one of my favorite, because this makes a very big difference, not only in the meaning it makes a difference. In fact, I still remember once our dear Master Swami, Pujya Swami Ragapriya, was our Sanskrit professor, whom I think most of us know here. He was giving one beautiful example, Vidyarthi. Two different meanings, two different. Because Vidyarthi is student who is aspiring to know. And Vidyarthi means obstacle. So it's totally opposite meaning, just from the Mahaprana, Alpaprana and stuff. So it is that important meaning-wise also. But here, even just the production of Mahaprana is a spiritual exercise. Because when we look at the various production of sound, if we say Mahaprana, pa, pa, ta, ta, ka, actually if you hold a thin napkin or a kerchief, you can actually see move 30 degrees. Because that energy is being produced from our system. So when you are reciting Vishnu Sahasranama, for example, if you are making sure consciously that we are pronouncing all Mahapranas properly, how many times we are energizing? How many times? Millions of times it is happening, and then it becomes our second nature. Second nature is so all our various centers inside get opened up. It's an experience. That is why, in particular, Vishnu Sahasranama and these Sahasranamas, people have got so much of experience with it. But it is so, the Ucharana is very important also. Because that brings, as we saw here, it's a science. It's the science of phonetics. So that's what we mean by that. Then, easy for memorization. This is another beautiful example. Because of sandhis and matrakalas and the way that Sanskrit things get integrated, because memorization is by association, one of the methods of memorization. So in Sanskrit we get to see this association much more effectively. Even crows, many times we can memorize in Sanskrit, but in other languages It's not that easy. It can be memorized, but the ease of memorization is because of the acoustical aspect. I am focusing on that. Then effect of sandhi relates to places of utterance. This is something, another beautiful observation. That is, for example, we all know the Shiva Sutra, the sthanas, Akuha Visarjaniyanam Kantaha. So the akara is coming from the kantaha, like the Buddha said. Then Ichuyashanam talu. So when we say E, the talu plays a role there. So when I bring the kanta and talu, then I get Edaito kanta talu. So A, which is nothing but A plus E, is coming from the interaction of the kanta and talu. So you can see the place of utterance and also the sandhi effect. Very, very nicely you can see. And my dear friend Dr. Ananta Padmanabha is right here, one of the noted speech scientists, and yes, a lot more in that. So, then we have, this is another very important verse in my opinion, because the communication gap, what we call, and as a humor I'm saying. In fact, there was a study, what makes people unhappy, very commonly. And the reason given was communication gap. Because somebody is speaking, somebody is supposed to listen. They are not listening. Somebody is ready to listen, somebody is not speaking properly. So either way, the communication gap. Now, communication gap can be bridged if we understand this. Guaranteed result here. But it's not easy to follow this, because the Vedic approach says, Panchanadya Saraswati Mabiyanti Tasrota Saha Saraswati Kankada So Desho Bhavat. So basically what shown as a model here. Now what is the model here? Information. So this is the information, the universe. Because both the speaker and the listener are in this common universe that we are referring. Now the speaker cognizes the information from the universe through the five senses. So all the information is gathered and the speaker uses through the mind, of course, mind and eyes, mind and tongue, mind and all of that, then brings all this knowledge and comes through the speech, because speaker is now speaking. Now the listener has to be alert and very ready to receive, attentive, not looking at the cell phone or something. Then listen fully, then transfer back using the five senses to those the places. Because the matching has to be done from hearing to hearing, touch to touch, vision to vision, of the speaker to the listener. It is not just listening, it is the transformation has to occur. I'll give some simple example, very simple. See, somebody has gone and attended a sumptuous dinner, or lunch, whichever one. Very sumptuous, very delightful. Now that person comes home and wants to explain how beautiful the dinner was. So if you take any particular sweet that he has eaten, jamun or some good sweet, this person is explaining, wow, so beautiful, all these things. And as the person is describing, the saliva, the rasa is coming out in the person, because he is remembering that taste. Now, if the listener is not attentive, forget about any saliva coming in his mouth, is not even attentive. But if the listener is attentive properly, surely saliva will come in the listener's mouth. It has to come. So this is possible through this, the speech, the sound. It's amazing how this sound carries this information in a very, very beautiful way. Lapierre, the English, the French author, he wrote that City of Joy book, a very famous book. But what attracted me in that book, the way he wrote the book, he lived in Calcutta for X number of years, then recorded all the sounds of the street and everything, the Calcutta sounds, where he experienced. And then he went back to some isolated place in France somewhere. Then he wanted to write the book, which is very silent area. There he turned on this recording and simply he transformed back into Calcutta through the sound recording. And then he writes in that book, if you read in that book, he says, this is how I wrote it. Very interesting how he got all the transformation back through this sound energy. And then he recreated a very beautiful book, that one. So, the point is there. And here, this is the reference in the Amaravani, which are the lectures of Yogi Sriranga Sadguru, published by Ashtanga Yoga Vijnana Mandiram. It is available in their website, aybm.in. So, so here we can see that the question is the Veena, Venu, Mridanga. These are all very, very special instruments. Because if you ask anyone, how does origin of instruments, not many know it and not many can say it how it came. It's only through the yoga, Sriranga Sadguru beautifully pointed out, showed. And here you can see the origin of the Veena is right in the spinal cord. And next to the human voice, Veena is very close to the human. And maybe that's how in Simantam, in the ritual, we have the Veena to be played in the right time for the baby and the mother to listen. So here, that is why it said, Daivi Manushi Veena Bhavati. So that reference of the instrument, Veena and Venu and Mridanga, can be referred back inside. So we can see now how the field of Naga and Shabda is related within.
Why that Naga is
This one is called as the Kurma at the base, because the Mooladhara is based on the Kurma. This is also taken from book Divine Dancer, written by Dr. Chamu, one of the disciples of Sriranga Sadguru, and this book is also published by the Ashtanga Yoga Vijnana Mandiram. It is founded by Sriranga Sadguru. So here, again when we go to the production of speech, sounds, and our Yoga Darshana has shown us that the sound produced not just at the mouth, as it's only expressed here as Vaikhari, but it is through, as we see, the spinal cord at various locations, various chakras as we see here. And these are the Bijaksharas. And with proper sadhana, these are realized. In fact, the various chakras are realized and the sounds are realized here. And you can see all the alphabets are here referred, and these are the Shaktis, so that is why when you go into some of the Tantra literature, we call it as letters and alphabets, but it is much more than that, Another important concept that I would like to stress in the Nada and Shabda Kshetra is Padapadartha Sambandha. And this Padapadartha Sambandha is a very important one, because how is a padartha is carried in the padartha. It's kind of almost like a mystery. Because by the moment we use a word, automatically, if you are familiar with that language and all that, and if you have already seen that object, automatically object comes into our mental picture. So the word is carrying the object. So when I say Shankha, automatically Shankha, not just the physical, but even the sound of Shankha, if you have heard of the sound, it will come into the memory. So the word itself is padartha. Now the reason for that is, pada is a summary of the experiences of the padartha. It's a summary. It is like I take a big vessel, I put a lot of things inside and I close the thing, I carry in the handle. Although I am carrying the handle, I am carrying the whole thing. So this handle is not just a handle, it is the whole thing. That is why I carry the handle. In a similar way, when I carry the pada, I am carrying the padartha. But that pada padartha sambandha has to be realized first, both from experience and by knowledge also. Once that is done, then we carry the pada. That is why Ninyapponina, Hangyapponina, Namada Bala Ondiddare Sako. So that Nama, that is a Nama Rupa, Asti Bhati Priya, and then Nama Rupa. When you take the Amshapanchaka, Nama Rupa comes here, Asti Bhati Priya comes here. And that is carried through Nama Rupa. So that is why Nama Smarana is so important. Now for this Pada Padartha, there is a beautiful example which happened in Helen Keller's life. It's a very beautiful example. Many of you may already know this. For those who may not have read this particular one, it's a beautiful one. And what it is, unable to see or hear or talk, a near savage child named Helen Keller lives in dark, fear-filled silence. Then a strong-willed teacher named Annie Salmon achieves a breakthrough away in Helen's mind. So this is the background, and this is what happens. So what happens here, just to give one more, 10 seconds more. Helen Keller was deaf, dumb and blind. Now the challenge for the teacher was how to connect her to the world. That's all the challenge, very big challenge. Because once that connectivity is given, then you can give the knowledge. So once what happened, all teachers, many teachers had left out of frustration because there is how to get that connectivity. And this Annie Sullivan, very strong teacher, she was almost at the verge of leaving also. And then a miraculous moment occurs in the backyard. So Annie Sullivan is sitting, and then in a very hot day, hot afternoon, this Helen Keller is very thirsty. She wants water. She is running everywhere, making sounds. But nobody knows what. What is she wanting? So then what happened, when she was running like that, she comes across, her hand touches through an open tap. When the touch occurs, immediately she comes back and then drinks very passionately that water. Then Annie Sullivan sees this, this is the connectivity. She wanted water, that's what she was looking for, and now I have to teach this is water, this is what in sign language of course, not. So that moment of connectivity occurred, and then the whole world of connectivity began, and Helen Keller, as many of us know, became one of the very well-known writers. She wrote books, she traveled around the world and all. She even came to India. So what she did, she placed my hand under the water spot. This is Helen Keller writing. She placed my hand under the water spout. As the cool stream gushed over one hand, she spelled water into the other. Suddenly the mystery of language was revealed to me. I knew then that water meant the wonderful cool something that was flowing over my hand. That living word awakened my soul, gave it light, hope, joy, and set it free. So what is water? Is that padartha. And as Shakespeare says, rose is a rose, no matter how you call it. So that padartha, that anubhava of the padartha is very important. Once that occurs, then pada becomes very, very important for us. So that connectivity is given from that. Now, I have some small recordings which I would like to speaker attach again. No. So what this is, I'll just give a short, very quick background. We did some work on the temple acoustics, and we're still continuing that. That is, what is the importance of sound in a temple? Because we know in Garbhagriha, Ardhamantapa and Mahamantapa, the design, of course, from the Agama Shastras is there, the size based on the Murti size and all that, and the Gopuram and all that. But from the sound point of view, because we know that microphone amplification all came recently, but in earlier times, when priests recited from the Garbhagriha, Ardhamantapa, how the sound reverberated within and then came out for the Bhakta devotees. The mantras, the Shankanada, Ghantanada, Jagata, all of these, and how that surrounded the devotees and gave that sacred sound effect. This is a very unique one compared to all other places of worship, because Garbhagriha is the smallest space in a temple. Then Ardhamantapa is the place where the priests normally recite mantras and vadyas are used. Then, of course, the Mahamantapa. So it is like a beautiful propagational area for the sound energy to come out and envelop the devotees. So we took a temple in actually New Jersey, and a traditionally built temple according to Agama Shastras, advised by Ganapati Sthapati in Chennai. So we did the recordings in the anechoic chamber. That means no reflection, no reverberation, nothing. Then we measured in the temple and we compared the reverberation effects in the temple and also calculated. So measured and calculated, we were pretty good in comparison. Almost about 2 dB difference between the two. So it's a good model that we got. And here what you heard was in the no echo chamber, what we call it the open chamber or free field. And now next one will be in the you can see the reverberation effect in this chanting compared to the previous. Now you will see more pronounced here. So you can see the various curves there, and maybe by curves you can see the increase. See, this the one is in the temple two-preet, the one that you heard, about 88 decibels, and we have the anechoic chamber which comes to about 76 or 65 decibels. You can see the difference here. Very good amplification from no reflection to the ardhamantapa that we have here. So this is a very important one because mantras play a very important role in temple worship. And so the acoustics plays a very important role in temple, although we don't see too much specific details that in Agamas. Agamas, Shastras, whatever we have found, the location of the bell has to be in Ardhamantapa. Some temples have Garbha, in Garbhagriha, the bells are there. But otherwise we don't see too much in terms of the description. But nevertheless, the use of the reflective area tells us something. And we just have finishing another work on rock cut cave temple. We did some work on Gavi Gangadhareshwara temple, and this morning actually we went to Hulimavu to do work on Ramalingeshwara cave temple. Beautiful both temples. You can actually see the sound energy simply enveloping through very phenomenal temples in terms of the acoustics of the rock cut temples. And here we have all put together, and the importance of this slide is we see so many frequencies are there from the conch shell, chant, bell and gong. They are all simultaneous in the Mahamangalarati time. Now what happens in Mahamangalarati, we get a very, very transformational experience because all these frequencies are happening at the same time. So the differences of the frequency play a very important role in entraining our mind, called entrainment. So the differences of the frequency, we respond to it. And that has a positive transformation. And you can see in the Mangalarati, the mantras are overpowered by the Vadyas. We can see very clearly. And mantras are heard in the background, where the Shankha, Ghanta, Jagata, they come up on the top. And this is in the anechoic chamber. So you can see in that, and here this is the actual temple. You can see the mantras are going in the back because the loudness and the frequency and the amplitude of the instruments are so high. But the interesting thing is we are able to listen to everything, mantras and everything, but the effect, what is happening to us is a transformational experience that occurs. And here is a visual difference in the anechoic chamber. You see there is no reflection, how the sound decays, whereas in a temple Garbhagriha you can see here how the oscillations are coming in because of the reflection. And we can see very clearly the effect, acoustical effect in the temple. And here there is an animation, which is visual animation. From the Garbhagriha, as you can see, the sound energy travels, comes through the Ardhamantapa, and as I said earlier, it comes as a boom here, as you can see here, and the devotees are here, and we as the devotees are enveloped by the sound completely here. So the interesting thing is, both by sound and sight, we are focused on this, and that is where the transformation occurs at that point. So that is the beautiful model that our sages have given, Garbhagraha, Ardhamantapa, Mahamantapa. Very beautiful. No matter where you take small temple, big temple, all temples have these three at least. And here in, this is the temple in New Jersey. So you can see the frequencies are listed here, the chant itself, the low frequency 150 Hertz, 3 like that, and you can see the bell so high, conch shell is somewhere in between, gong, and when you come together you can see so many frequencies are coming here.
What is gong?
Gong is jagate. Jagate. Actually this is the only three. If we go into Guruvayurappan temple, they use at least 10 or so. Different kahale, the whole thing. And they also have what is known as Asuravadya and Devavadya. Very interesting thing. Depending on the frequencies, they are classified. Because Devavadya, when we do the Ganta Nada, we also say the prayer. Agamarthantu Devanam, Gamanarthantu Rakshatam, Iti Gantaravam Krutva Devata Panalanchana. So for the divine vibrations to come in, certain vadyas are called. The materialistic vibrations to go out, certain vadyas are done. Very nice thing. And here,
an 18th century musician and physicist, he spread sand on metal plates to plate them with a violin bow. The vibrations from the bow caused the sand to gather into beautiful geometric forms.
now this is what is known as the Charlie patterns. This is very well known in engineering and science and all that. But what is the relevance of this for us? Very interesting relevance. Because our eardrum is like a thin membrane, 1/1000th of an inch, our eardrum thickness, very, very fine membrane. And this membrane is connected to the cochlea and then the hair cells and all of that. So this membrane is responding to the vibrations that are falling. So obviously the membrane is taking different shapes. Some are harmonic shapes, some are non-harmonic depending on the sound. For karkasha dhvanis, non-harmonic, non-good looking shapes. For madhurya dhvanis, it has to be harmonic shapes. Because these patterns will show us that very clearly. Now this eardrum is having that harmonic and beautiful shapes. They are the ones which are transformed as melodic sounds. So that is why the patterns in nature we can see is because of some vibrations that we have. Even the Rangoli pattern can be traced to that. So you can see that the patterns that we see is because of these vibrations. And this is a work that Dr. Anantapradhanam and myself, at some point we collaborated on this. And what this work is an indication. More work has to be done in this field, lot more work. It's an indication that sound and shape are integrally related. Integrally related. And every sound has its own shape. That can be shown by these patterns. So if you take the production of Omkara properly recited, of course, very important. Because any experiment, any laboratory, you have to do proper experiments. And here also it means the same thing. And when it is mapped back in a proper way, in a complex domain, the shape comes out in this form of the Omkara. So we can see the similarity between the lipi and the form that it comes. And like this, we had also done Omkara produced by a Tibetan Lama that was published in Acoustical Society of America journal. And that also gave somewhat similar shape. The point is universal truth, universal phenomena has imprint in the universe. The great yogis reach that and get that. And that's the message, that's the point where it's made here. And in continuation of that, there is another very important effect that we have seen. This was published by British physicist, a very famous one, though Finnish people would know him, John Tyndall, very, very well known. And this Tyndall used to do experiments using sound. And he did one phenomenal experiment, sound effect on flames. So what he did was he took the Bunsen flame that is in chemistry lab, put a sound wave on that, 150 hertz or so in this case. When the sound was steady on the flame burst into 7 tons. And he called it as 7-tongued flame. The term he uses, very interesting. So, and we call also the same thing, Sapta Jivva, we use the word, 7-ton flame in Ritudasanama. So, the truth, again, as I said, Satyam, which is Avikara. So, the connection is brought here, and it's a repeatable experiment as you can see here. This is flame without the effect of sound, flame with the effect of sound, and even in that center is the Shikha, is the center one. And this Saptajiva is also referred, again, when we start seeing the connectivity, so beautiful. In our face-off, we see that 7 tongues also. The 2 eyes, 2 ears, 2 nostrils, and the mouth. So this is 7 tongues. And another interesting phenomena, again, this is many examples are there, many pictures are there with me. I'm sure many have these such pictures. When a homa is done, the flame, of course the homa is done on Ishta Devata. In this case it is Lakshmi Homa. And the flame has taken this form. So when the pictures of the flame were taken, and when pictures are seen, these pictures of the Ishta Devata is seen. I myself have at least half a dozen type of these different Krishna, Durga, Chandi, all Chandi Homa like that. Ganapati Homa. Very interesting. And I was thinking of the possibility of this, and one thought was that the flame is the central element in the 5 elements, because if you take earth, water, fire, air and space, so fire comes right in the middle. That means from concrete form to the abstract form, from concrete to abstract. So the flame is the transition. And we also know flame is used as a messenger in our Homa. Agnim Dutam Rinimahe, we say that. So Ahuti is given to the flame to carry the Ahuti to the Ishta Devata, the Devata of the Homa. So obviously the formation of Devata in the Homa is something natural. The only thing is, when the Yajna is done, when people are focusing on the Agni, Homa Agni, some have seen it also. Again, one has to be seen, one has to be attentive. The shapes are being formed because that is the nature. So that is the So with that, I would like to conclude with some major concluding statements. So Nada Yoga is the union of source path receiver through the Spanda. Shabda is the manifestation of the Param Brahman. It is essentially pathway in spiritual journey to reach the goal. The fourfold description of sound through Nada Shabda production in Vedic Hindu literature can be used to describe the consciousness. Word-object identity is a very important one. Nada resulting from movement and also self-existence is a very important one. I did not touch upon a big portion of this Nada and Shabda Kshetra that's referred as Ahata Nada and Anahata Nada. All the time I have been talking about Ahata itself. That is what is produced and processed and generated. But there is also what is not produced, Anahata Nada, and that is not for discussion. It is for sadhana, it is to be realized. So, because the field is so vast, I wanted to focus on only Ahata aspect. So I just wanted to put it in the end, that is why. Nada resulting is the seed of articulation and manifestation in various expressions. Seed tree, Vriksha Bija Nyaya is another one. Supreme being manifests itself through Nama, Shabda, form and spiritual energy in deity is Devata Rupa. So Nama, Nada Shabda and Devata Rupa.